Well, Justin, now we come to an interesting part of the show, talking about one of those district teams in that program. And this is a tough situation, to say the least. And I think what we've talked about it a lot off the air, and to try and figure out where to go, I think, exactly with this topic. And I think what your main thing should be the main thing that we focus on in this situation, and that is there are no specific bad guys in this situation. We are not trying to point out blame on any specific person.
I feel like if you go through any organization, like you go to any school, I've been through the years that I've been working for the Daily World or the Vidette or any number of media outlets that I've worked for, I've met a lot of people in athletic programs in high schools. These are good people.
Yeah.
These are good people who care about kids. They care about the program. They want to get the best out of kids.
Absolutely.
So sometimes good people can make mistakes or just do something that's not success. Like, good people can fail, and that doesn't make them a failure.
Yeah.
It means that you did one thing that was not quite as good as what it was possible.
Yeah, or something escalated.
Right.
That, is hard to keep track of.
So I would encourage everybody in the situation to not look at it. And actually, you and I, there's tons of information that we know that we're not going to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
You and I have spent hours talking to many people over the last couple of days to try to figure everything out. And I feel overwhelmingly like the sentiment is they like each other. Many people feel like something was done that was wrong and things were not handled in the most appropriate way, but that people aren't holding hostility like, oh, I hate that person.
Yeah,
it's just not true.
That's true, and I think that's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it would be very.
It's easy to blame somebody and make them the bad guy.
To blame them and then attack them personally.
Right. And
that is the thing that I'm most impressed with and happy about, is that I have not heard any personal attacks on anybody.
And now we've danced around it. So let's say what it is.
And it is... It's the Hoquiam boys basketball team. They had a game against Kingsway Christian, and they were without a number of players because there was a protest, I guess would be the best way to say it, of an assistant coach that was dismissed by the administration. And in protest of that, a decent amount of players did not go down there. And so I think they had seven kids, maybe 8 kids that played in that matchup. And that is the situation that we're talking about. And it's tough on so many different levels to talk about something like that. But I think that, there's some different circumstances that went on that led to this. And it's hard to see a program, especially a program that I personally care about, have to go through something like this.
Yeah, and, like I said, in all the time that we've covered sports, we have relationships with these people.
Yeah.
And at least in part, that's why it's been so easy for us to get information, but it also makes everything so much more difficult because, these are people I like. These are people that I care about,
Absolutely.
And sometimes people you like and people that you care about don't do everything perfectly right. I don't do everything perfectly right.
Neither do I.
And I can look at this situation that they have, and, it appears there's a culture issue in the Hoquiam boys basketball program. It appears there's some division in the team.
Yeah.
It appears that it was not addressed properly or quickly enough. But there's lots of different reasons why that could have happened. If you look at the whole situation from beginning to end, there's a dozen different things that any person or group of people could have done to try to make the situation better earlier so that it didn't get to this point where players have decided their only option to make things better with the division on the team was to abstain from joining the team on the bus to go play in a game.
Yeah.
And it is really unfortunate. I have 2 main takeaways from this. One is one of my general life philosophies is I really admire people who stand up for what they believe in even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
So to the group of kids that has decided, hey, we're not happy with the way things are going, they got together, they talked about it. I'm not going to say that they handle everything 100% correctly, but I do admire the strength and the courage that it takes to get together and stand up and say, hey, this is not right the way that things went.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, there's a person that I have had a great relationship with in the head coach, Curtis Eccles, who I admire and I believe to be a good coach, a good person, a morally upright person. That, did the coaching staff handle everything perfectly throughout the course of the season? Probably not. And I think if you talk to Curtis, he might even say, hey, yeah, I might have been able to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
But I do believe in his ability to recognize, here's the situation, here's what can be done better. Let's right the ship.
Exactly.
Let's make this better.
Yeah. I think that's 100%. Like, I'm not sure what else you could say about that. And like you mentioned, we have relationships with, everybody we cover, and we get to know these people and we talk to them, and that is why we are able to talk to so many different people about one issue like this that, maybe in some other circumstances people won't answer you back or won't text you back or anything like that. And I gotta say that people have wanted to reach out to us because I think they feel like they do care about what is going on with the program. And I think that, and again, like I mentioned, and like you mentioned before, there has not been any personal attacks from any side of this story that we have heard. And that is impressive to me. We were able to talk to Coach Eccles, and the one thing that we can take away from that is that he said that he was against the coach being dismissed. That's really the only concrete quote that we can go with right now. Like we said, we spent, over the last 2 days, we have spent hours and hours and hours talking to people and trying to get different perspectives and different sides and what's going on with this. But I think that is a very concrete fact that should be released.
Absolutely. Well, noting that the administration forced Curtis to make this decision and not wait till the end of the season to address it like he wanted to, but, make this decision now to dismiss this volunteer coach. And, I've had communication with this coach, and I know he definitely feels that he has been unjustly dismissed.
Yeah.
And I think at least it's evidenced by the fact that this handful of players, for lack of a better word, boycotted that game.
Yeah, and they believe the same thing.
Decided that they were going to support him.
Yeah.
And it's, I could understand also how it would be perceived possibly as them doing something against their head coach. But I think the issue is deeper than that, where, because of the division in the team, because of, some accusations of rough practice, there's been some things that have happened without going into too much detail throughout the course of the season, that there's a division, there's a wedge between two groups of players. And I don't think it necessarily is an indictment on Curtis as a head coach that these players, I think it probably hurts him.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's them necessarily saying, hey, we don't stand behind our coach. It was saying, hey, we want to stand up for injustice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard. Sports a lot of times has blurred lines with physicality.
Right.
You see it in a lot of different situations. This year in the NFL, there was a player who, for some reason I'm blanking on his name, but he hit Mason Rudolph with his helmet.
Myles Garrett.
Yeah. And
assaulted him with a deadly weapon.
That would, if you were on the street and you swung a helmet at somebody's head, you might get charged with that. On a football field, it's different.
Yeah.
And on a basketball court, things are different. And I think I'm going to try and be as vague about this as possible because I don't want to cast a negative light on any previous coaches that I had. I will say that this wasn't because I did play. That's another thing I feel like I should disclose. I played for Curtis Eccles. I played for Coach Eccles when I was a senior. And none of this happened. I mean, I was a senior, so this story will reveal that obviously this didn't happen at that point. But I did have a sport once where I was playing, but I was a sophomore, and I had a couple of different altercations. One time where I felt like I got hit below the belt on purpose during a practice. And then a few minutes later, I believe it was in the same practice, I got elbowed in the face. And nothing happened. And that was something that happened during a practice. And the second one, the one below the belt, I don't know if anybody between me and that senior had any idea that happened. That guy was known for being sneaky. I'll just put it that way. But the elbow to the face was right in front of everybody. He had the basketball in his hand. So I think I have an interesting perspective on that, having feel like I've gone through that and not felt represented at that time. And that was hard for me. And thankfully for me, that was an isolated incident.
Right.
I don't remember another practice where something like that happened.
Well, I think anybody who's coached anything would tell you, I mean, maybe except for like 5-year-old soccer, would tell you that it's a difficult balance.
It is, yeah.
Trying to, promote good relationships and also encourage competition in practice, because
Absolutely.
You want the kids you coach to be used to and be able to deal with competition. And you want your kids to be able to play physical also. This is an issue that we've had. I've had 2 kids going through basketball programs from 5th grade through 8th grade. And sometimes you have to tell them, hey, you have to adjust to how the game is officiated.
Yeah.
So if the other team's playing physical and the refs are letting it go, it is incumbent upon you to play that game more physical. So you don't want to just create an atmosphere at practice where when you're scrimmaging against each other, there's zero physicality. You don't want anyone to get hurt. But that's where it's the fine line.
Yeah.
You want to encourage physical play and competition while also ensuring safety, and it's hard. So
safety and relationships.
If anybody's looking at this situation from the outside saying that this is so easy to fix this problem, it's just not.
Absolutely.
There's so many little things that can happen and just kind of compound on top of each other throughout the course of a season to where, there probably was a solution to this, and it would have been great if it was solved earlier, but it wasn't, and this is where we are. And I think if anyone puts themselves in the shoes of the person who's responsible for the team, you have to understand. If you're a logical person, you have to understand how it got there.
Yeah.
I know I do. I've coached a lot of youth sports. I haven't coached a lot of high school age kids, but I've coached a lot of youth sports, and I understand. I can put myself in the shoes of people running the team and understand exactly what the struggle they had was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the final thing that I want to say about it is I care a lot about that program. And I really hope that the ship can get righted.
Right.
Because it means a lot to me. And to see any program, and especially people that we know and love and care about, on either side, no side, whatever side, it's hard to see it. So I really hope that the ship can be righted and relationships can be mended here, because I think that's the most important part of this is the relationships between the people involved.
Yeah. And I also think, just as one last little side note, it should be pointed out that Curtis Eccles has a stellar performance record as Hoquiam High School boys basketball coach. I believe he's the winningest coach in program history. Is that correct?
Yeah.
He's been coaching there for a long time, and he's had a lot of success, and he's had a lot of kids in and out of that program that are happy with the way things are going. So I'm not saying that as an indictment to the kids who have stood up for themselves. I'm saying that as let's not look at this as one little thing. Let's look at the big picture and try to have some confidence in the ability to get things right again.
Yeah.